This module presents several of the techniques used during searches, whether for a subject or evidence. The first step is to establish a preliminary search area. This search area may be modified as a search progresses. The total area to be searched will be based on two considerations. One is consideration of lost person behavior. Children of different ages act different when confronted with the fact that they may be lost. Hunters will respond differently than fishermen or berry pickers. Having an idea of the possible behavior of the subject will help in considering where as well as how to search. The second consideration is that the area to be searched will be established based on the most current information that is available about the subject, which might come from family, friends, or other information sources. Sometimes this information is sketchy at best. Establishing the search area is a most crucial step in preparing a search plan. Until this area is determined, very little effective or efficient searching can be done. It is important to understand the definitions of terms that may be used in development of a search. Probability of area is the probability that the subject is in the area to be searched. This is expressed as a percentage, such as 60%. The probability is a subjective estimate based on the subject and family information and/or other clues. Probability of detection is the probability that a clue or the subject will be found in the search area given the nature of the search and the type of resources used. Again, this probability is expressed as a percentage and is an estimation provided by search teams. Initial planning point. This is where we will begin the search. Point last seen. Rather obvious, but remember it is based on witness accounts. Point last seen may actually be the subject's residence, which may be a long ways from where the search actually occurs. Last known position. This point is based on witness accounts, or it may be where the subject's car or camp is found. Search areas can be established based on several methods of consideration or a combination of these methods. Theoretical considerations. These are based on the maximum possible distance the subject may have traveled, considering weather conditions, terrain, and the individual's assumed ability. This would include consideration of whether the subject was only on foot or a combination of foot and vehicle. Statistical considerations are how far other people in similar situations have traveled, as well as the information based on the specific type of lost person behavior. Subjective considerations. These are based on geography, natural barriers, also intuition, clues, and subject's limitations. Deductive reasoning. Things in the terrain or other features that may direct the person's travel, such as a person is not likely to cross a large river or go down a vertical cliff. Searches may be done using two primary techniques, or a combination of these techniques. One is passive techniques, which are techniques that you try to do to get the subject to come to you. These might include placing search teams to possibly confine the subject so that the subject is likely to run into a search team, or use some means of attraction. The second primary technique is to use active techniques to find the subject, such as hasty teams, trackers, aircraft, search dogs, and mounted or mobile units. Many searches will use both passive and active techniques. In addition, investigation and information gathering continues regardless of which technique is used. In passive techniques, the effort is made to establish a search perimeter which may likely encompass a subject and beyond which they are unlikely to pass without being detected. Confinement uses terrain and natural catching features as well as man-made tools. Confinement could include roadblocks, trail blocks, camp-ins, lookouts, track traps, which are an area that has been cleared of track sign and in which the subject might then leave sign. String bright colored surveyor tape across a path that a subject might run into. Passive techniques for attraction may include visual. These could be lights, flags, mirrors, etc., things that the subject can see, considering terrain, vegetation, and the weather. Sounds. These could include sirens, whistles, yelling, etc., things that can be heard. What is used, again, depends on terrain, vegetation, and the weather. Investigation. Investigation will continue to learn as much as possible about the subject and information that is relevant to the search. Wait. Based on information that you have received, it may be best to wait until further information is obtained, conditions improve, or additional or more appropriate search units are available. For example, in a potentially hazardous area, it might be best to wait till morning when searching can be done more safely in daylight instead of searching at night. Media and social media. Use the media to distribute information on the person or persons that you are searching for, or possibly use some social media means to alert people about the lost subject. Aircraft flyovers, in the hope that the subject may see and signal the aircraft, or the aircraft spotters may see the subject. In establishing the search area, this area may need to be subdivided into area segments. Consider the possible behavior of the subject's skills, habits, and other relevant information that you obtain about the subject. Consider the terrain, the type and the condition of the terrain in the search area, such as is it steep, wet, rugged, dense forest, rocky, cliffs, etc. Consider physical boundaries that may confine the subject, such as rivers, cliffs, a lake, well-traveled forest road, or a major highway. The area segment should be something that can be searched in a single operational phase or period. Why segment the search area? We can be more assured that there is complete coverage of the segment to be searched with the available resources. In a segment, the search objectives can be completed in a reasonable time, and we can reduce and focus the efforts of the searchers. The search area segment should have well-defined boundaries, which will reduce efforts of searchers since they know specifically where to focus their search. These boundaries may be man-made, such as roads, canals, fences, power lines. They could be natural, like rivers, streams, steep cliffs, canyons, or improvised, using flagging tape or other temporary boundaries. How large should a search area segment be? The size of the search area should be based on the terrain, weather conditions, and searcher capabilities. Searchers should be able to complete a search of a segment area in 4 to 6 hours. Large search area segments can be difficult and time-consuming to search, and the subject may be missed. The morale of the searchers may be poor if they think there is no way they can effectively search the assigned area. Having search area segments too small can also cause difficulties. Small search segments can be quickly covered, and you find yourself constantly having to be redeployed to another area. This can also be a challenge to those running the search, as they constantly have to determine new assignments for search teams. Now let's look at types of active searches. The first is a type 1 search, which is a hasty search. In a hasty search, the criteria is speed, a rapid search response to the area of high probability by search resources that are immediately available. In this effort, we are looking for a responsive subject, but we are also clue conscious. Hasty teams are usually 2 to 3 persons. The hasty search can involve a quick initial investigation that may locate the subject, call relatives and friends, check places they frequent or places they may go in the area, a thorough check of the last known position of the subject looking for clues, a search of obvious known or suspected travel routes, such as established trails, searching easily defined locations, such as ridges, drainages, structures, etc., making sounds to attract the subject as you visually search. Check the perimeter of the initially identified search area. Try to sign cut subjects' tracks or other signs that indicate they may have passed a location, which may indicate a possible direction of travel. Search and patrol roads in the search area. Check attractions or points of possible interest in the search area, as well as identified hazards such as irrigation ditches, abandoned wells, etc. Type 1 resources may include investigators, trained clue-conscious searchers, trained trackers, search dogs, aircraft, mobile teams, which are 4x4s, ATVs, snowmobiles, or mounted teams. The second active search is a Type 2 search. In the Type 2 search, the criteria is efficiency. In this type of search, we are looking in high probability areas using techniques that produce a high probability of detection for the effort expended. You may assume that the subject, if not seriously injured, would be responsive and/or they are on the move. Type 2 search teams are typically made up of 3 to 7 people that cover the area where the Type 1 search has located clues, or in areas of heavy vegetation or areas bordered by natural or man-made boundaries. In the Type 2 search, the teams are searching specifically defined search areas. They would be assigned to an area where the Type 1 search teams found clues that may have been left by the subject. This type of search is somewhat fast, and the search team is searching in a more open grid, meaning they are spaced so each searcher is still able to visually cover the area between them and the next searcher with a reasonable degree of assurance that if the subject were there, they would see them. Search routes for Type 2 teams may follow compass bearings to keep the team on a defined path and keep all team members coordinated. The resources of the Type 2 search are the same as the Type 1. Investigators, teams are always clue conscious, search dogs, trackers and sign cutters, sound and visual grid teams, aircraft, mounted and/or mobile teams. The last type of active search technique is the Type 3 search, which is slow, highly systematic, and done using thorough search techniques. When using a Type 3 search, it is likely that any clues or the subject might be found. However, this type of search may also be highly destructive of any clues in the search area due to the thoroughness of this type of search. The Type 3 search techniques include close visual grid. Searchers are close together with overlapping visual areas between searchers, so it is highly unlikely that any clue between searchers would be missed. Sweep search meaning the team thoroughly sweeps through an area. The Type 3 search is typically used whenever an evidence search is done. The resource of the Type 3 search are teams that have been trained to do close visual grids or sweeps of areas, or trained in proper procedures when involved in an evidence search. Now let's consider methods that can be used to do a search. One is a circular method. For this method, the searchers move in a circular and spiral path either outward or inward from an initial point. The circular pattern might be used when the terrain dictates that you can safely and effectively perform this search, or when the area to be searched has not yet been positively identified. This diagram illustrates the circular pattern, where search teams are searching in a spiral pattern. Another search method is a line search. In a line search, the searchers move abreast of each other, going in the same direction. The line of searcher is as long as the available manpower dictates, and the spacing between the searchers will depend on what is being searched for. For an evidence search, the spacing might be shoulder to shoulder. For searching for an unresponsive subject, the spacing may be many feet apart, depending on the vegetation, terrain, and weather. A line search can be both time-consuming and tedious. The lane search pattern method has the searchers walking parallel to each other at the same pace. The distance of separation between searchers is such that a high probability of detection could occur if there is a clue or the subject in the search area. At the end of the search area, the searchers move to the left or right to an unsearched area, turned 180 degrees, and begin searching going back in the opposite direction in a new lane and covering new ground for all members of the search team. This diagram shows how the lane pattern is accomplished in covering a search area. The grid search pattern is similar to the lane pattern, except at the end of the search area, the searchers move either to the right or left of the search area and turn 90 degrees. They then search the area in a new lane pattern, but perpendicular to the previous lane searched. Using this method, the searchers cover the search area twice, but in two different directions. This diagram illustrates the grid pattern, where the search area is searched in two different directions, resulting in a crisscross search method. The wheel search method begins with searchers starting at the center of the search area. They search outward as along the spokes of a wheel until they reach the perimeter of the search area. This pattern can be repeated as many times as necessary to achieve a high probability that the search area has been well searched. The zone search pattern method is where a search area is divided up into quadrants, with each quadrant assigned to a search team. The team searching a quadrant may further subdivide a quadrant if needed to achieve a high probability of detection. Within the quadrant, the search teams may use one of the other methods of searching as appropriate for the conditions and the size of the search team. In searching for evidence, some particular procedures should be followed. Those are, when a searcher finds something, they should announce that something has been found. It should be noted when, where, and by who the evidence was found. It may be helpful to make a sketch of the relationship of evidence to other evidence or objects near the evidence. A digital photo may be very helpful. During an evidence search, searchers should be aware of where other searchers are so that they do not walk on evidence found by another searcher. In any type of search, someone with the media may show up. Direct a media person to the search team leader, who should direct the media to the incident commander. Do not discuss particulars of a search with media or anyone else.